NBC plans to shut down NBCSN by the end of this year. What does this mean for motorsports, and specifically, what does this mean for NASCAR? How's it going, y'all? My name is Eric and welcome to Out of the Groove. Some pretty huge news broke earlier this afternoon. That's right, this is my second video of the day. I'm telling y'all, if you're not subscribed to the show, make sure you're subscribed right now, because as we get closer to the Daytona 500, as the season starts, the stories are not going to slow down. You're not going to want to miss any news from the NASCAR world, so make sure you're subscribed right here, right now, because here at Out of the Groove, we'll be covering everything. And honestly, shows like this one might become more important this year with the news we're going to talk about here today. Let's cut right to the chase. It was reported earlier today that NBC is planning to shut down NBCSN by the end of 2021. There's this report from Sports Business Journal. NBC has told distributors and some sports leagues that it plans to shut down its NBCSN sports channel by the end of the year. This was rumored towards the end of 2020. I saw some people talking about it, but I had no idea how imminent any announcement really was, so I didn't talk about it on the show, but it's official here today. NBC Sports Network, NBCSN, is going away at some time this year. At least by the end of this year, it will be gone completely, and this is extremely important because if you're a NASCAR fan, the last 6 years or so, you've probably gotten used to flipping over to NBCSN for roughly a fourth of the Cup Series races each year. Ever since 2015, when NBC jumped back into the fold and began broadcasting roughly the second half of the NASCAR season, we've become used to watching races on NBCSN, but no more. At some point this year, things will change. Where will NASCAR Cup Series races, where will NASCAR Xfinity Series races, where will NASCAR races go? And even other motorsports besides just NASCAR. IMSA has been big on NBC in recent years, and IndyCar, the entire IndyCar season is shown on NBC's family of networks, so they'll be affected by this as well. But we're going to focus on NASCAR because this is a NASCAR show. According to multiple reports, many sports that were typically shown on NBCSN will move over to the USA Network this year. A Wall Street Journal reporter tweeted, NBC Sports Network is shutting down later this year, and big events, NHL and NASCAR among them, will migrate to USA Network. And I saw Bob Pockrass tweet this. This was a memo that the NBC Sports Network executive sent out that NBC released. Commencing later this year, USA Network will begin carrying and or simulcasting certain NBC sports programming, including NHL Stanley Cup playoff games and NASCAR races as part of a larger transition within the company. At the conclusion of 2021, we have decided that the best strategic next step for our sports group and the entire company is to wind down NBCSN completely, with key elements of NBCSN's programming moving to USA Network and, in some cases, Peacock for 2022 and beyond. Now, they mentioned Peacock there in that memo, the NBC streaming service. We'll talk more about that in a moment, but I want to focus first on the short-term implications this has for NASCAR primarily. Now, NASCAR's current TV contracts with NBC and Fox do not expire until after the 2024 season. And as for the 2021 schedule, 12 of the 20 NBC races are set to be shown on NBCSN. Presumably, some, if not all of those 12 races, will move to USA Network. The main NBC races, I'm sure, will remain on main NBC. There's a couple different ways to look at this. First, if we're just talking about the broadcast of the races themselves, the NASCAR Xfinity Series and the NASCAR Cup Series have had a good handful of their races shown on NBCSN the last few years. In fact, most of the Xfinity Series races are NBCSN. Presumably most, if not all of those broadcasts will be moved to USA Network this year. And as far as those broadcasts themselves are concerned, I don't think this is going to have a super negative effect on viewership. It might have a slight negative effect at first because you now have millions of fans conditioned to tuning into NBCSN, and if they tune in Sunday afternoon and don't find the race on NBCSN or don't find NBCSN at all because it's gone, you might lose some viewers there who don't know to find it at USA. There just may be some disconnect there, and that's just natural. That's going to happen. But I did some research, and as of 2018, USA Network reached just over 90 million households in the US. 90 million compared to NBCSN, which last year reportedly reached just over 79 million households. 79 million versus 90 million households. USA Network reportedly has a slightly wider reach. Both are cable channels, but USA is included in pretty much all base cable packages, so that probably gives it the slight edge. I am not familiar with USA Network's typical programming. I believe the WWE is shown on USA Network from time to time, if not all the time, so that's something. But if we just look at those raw numbers, there are slightly more people in the US that have USA Network compared to NBCSN. So that actually could be a good thing here a couple years down the line for NASCAR Cup Series race audiences. Unfortunately, what will likely be sacrificed in this whole deal, and this is the second thing I want to talk about, is all the content, all the motorsports NASCAR related content that isn't live race broadcasts. I'm talking about shows like NASCAR America or like the Dale Jr. Download when they show those on NBCSN. It's not clear if those kinds of shows will have a place on USA Network. And that is a loss. I don't know what kind of numbers NASCAR America is doing on a daily basis when it shows, weekdays during the season. I don't know how many people really tune in to NASCAR America or tune into the Dale Jr. Download show on NBCSN. I know his YouTube channel gets pretty good traffic, but if you're a NASCAR fan, that's the biggest concern I have in the short term. Xfinity races, Cup Series races are still going to be visible this year live on basic cable, and with limited practice and qualifying this year, I would guess those broadcasts will also be on basic cable on USA Network for everyone to watch this year. So I'm not super worried about that. It's the shows that go beyond the racetrack itself that may hit the chopping block this year. You may not see them on TV, but hey, that's why things like YouTube exist. You got this show, Dale Jr.'s show is here, all sorts of shows are here on YouTube to catch you up on all sorts of NASCAR news, topics, discussions. So is it the biggest loss in the world? I mean, it's hard for me to be objective here because in a way they are competition to my show, Out of the Groove. But certainly we all want more NASCAR content to be on TV as much as possible, so that is a potential loss. Now I mentioned that NASCAR's contract with NBC is still good until 2024, so that's 4 years from now. It sounds like NASCAR races might end up on USA Network this year, but going forward, 22, 23, 24, is that going to stay the same? This is where I want to talk about Peacock, which was mentioned in that memo I read a second ago. Peacock is the new NBC branded streaming service that launched last year. I don't have a whole lot of first-hand experience with Peacock, but from what I can tell is it's a free streaming service, but you can pay to access some additional content or to get content without ads, things like that. I think they have a couple different tiers you can pay per month. I know they recently added like The Office to Peacock and like it jacked up all their prices and everything, so The Office is that valuable. Anyway, the idea of any motorsport series, not specifically NASCAR, but maybe IndyCar or IMSA, I've seen some people talking about, the idea that those series could exclusively be streamed on Peacock, that's an interesting idea. The future is streaming. Everyone's got a streaming service these days. That's not to underestimate the power that cable and broadcast television still have, but streaming certainly is the way to go. There would certainly be an adjustment period, but I don't hate the idea of motorsports eventually jumping onto a streaming service if it's free, especially if it's free. If NASCAR, practice in a year or two, or qualifying is only viewable on Peacock, but it's free to stream, you just may get some ads, I think that's pretty awesome because not everyone has cable. A lot of people have unplugged cable in recent years, but internet is widely available. And if it's free to stream on Peacock, you just gotta sit through some ads. That's huge. I think that could be the future for not just motorsports broadcasting, but even, all sports. I mean, we've seen like NFL games streamed on Twitter. Like, what the hell? That's been a thing that's happened. This may be a fad, maybe this won't stick, but it does seem to be a universal transition that media is making right now from typical broadcast and cable TV into digital streaming online. That's why YouTube's huge, that's why Twitch is huge. The concern is that NBC would put sports like IndyCar, NASCAR, IMSA behind a paywall. You have to pay that $5, $6, $7, $8 a month, whatever it is that you have to pay on Peacock to get the unlimited viewing stuff. You get ad-free. Concern is that they would put sports like that behind the paywall, so you're paying another fee. That would be tough. That would kill viewership for motorsports, especially at first, if they put it behind a paywall like that. But I don't want people to rule out the idea of motorsports being streamed live on Peacock or other streaming services completely. I do think it's important to keep an open mind and consider those as possibilities if it's done correctly. Let's look long term here for a moment. If this NASCAR NBC partnership does not go well the next few years, NASCAR is going to be looking elsewhere. Could Fox step up in a big way? I don't know. There's some pretty big concerns about Fox's commitment to motorsports. They laid off several on-air talent this past offseason. Alan Cavana, Matt Yoakum, they were let go at the end of the 2020 season. Sure, they added Clint Boyer, but at what cost? Could another network, another media company step up here in the next few years? I've heard a lot of people mention CBS as a real possibility. In fact, even Pete Pistone put out a tweet today saying that industry insiders believe CBS could be a player in future motorsports media rights. They lost SEC football to ABC and has holes to fill sports property-wise, plus the SRX foray this year. And that's another reason I've heard CBS's name. The Superstar Racing Experience, Tony Stewart, Ray Everham's new thing, those races will air Saturday night for 6 straight weeks this summer on main CBS. That's That's pretty huge. This could be CBS's first dip into the motorsports landscape. We'll see if it goes well. I think NASCAR fans will learn a lot watching what IndyCar does here this year, because IndyCar's contract with NBC is actually up at the end of this season. So they, as we speak, are probably in the middle of negotiating a new deal. Whatever IndyCar ends up doing this year could be a strong indicator of what NASCAR will end up doing with its next TV contract after the 2024 season. NASCAR is, as far as I can tell, stuck with NBC for the next few years, so hopefully this NBC, USA Network, Peacock, whatever they end up doing beyond this year, hopefully it works out, but if it doesn't, NASCAR in just a few short years will have the opportunity to look elsewhere, and I think whatever happens to IndyCar could be a precursor to what happens to NASCAR. This is still a developing story. I'm kind of reacting to it in the moment. I'm sure we'll get more details, more information in the coming days and weeks, maybe later tonight for all I know, but I appreciate you guys watching this video. You've heard my initial reactions to the news. Let me know what you think of this news. Are you worried about the future of NASCAR and NBC? Do you think USA Network will be a welcome home for NASCAR Cup and Xfinity Series races? Let me know what you think of all this news down below. I look forward to reading your responses, but that's all I've got. 2 episodes in one day. Man, it takes a lot out of you. Thank you all so much for watching. I appreciate the support. Again, subscribe if you are new so you do not miss any NASCAR news, rumors, speculation, reports, anything like that. Huge thank you as always to my amazing Patreon supporters as well. I got some other projects I'm working on this weekend, so you guys will see some more videos here very, very soon. Out of the Groove all next week. All that great stuff. Thanks for the support. I'll see y'all very, very soon.